Apple's a little late to the party, but could we actually see a foldable iPhone in 2026? That's what the rumors are saying. According to Mac Rumors, the foldable smartphone market has actually stalled, with consumer interest in foldables waning. I don't know if that's true or not, because I know some people who love them, but that could change when Apple debuts a foldable phone, according to Ross Young. Right now, the iPhone doesn't fold, but it does sell pretty well. Is there still interest in a foldable iPhone at this point? I know how I feel about it. Maybe I'll save that till the end. I want to know how you feel about it, and whether we're talking about a flip, design where you just kind of fold the candy bar in half, or something more like a Z Fold, where you get kind of a double or a tri-fold, I think, where it folds out from a phone to more of a tablet. Huawei literally just came out last month with this new tri-fold here. Huawei's been all over foldables for a super long time. Samsung's been doing the foldables for a super long time, but you'll see, even though it folds, they're still doing what Apple's doing, promoting AI, Galaxy AI. No different than Apple Intelligence. They're both promoting that, whether it folds or it doesn't. So it's almost like even if Apple did have a foldable out right now, they would still be promoting AI stuff, right? Because that's just where we're at in the market. Now, people are enthusiastic about this. Let's say the tech enthusiasts are enthusiastic about this prospect, just like they always have been. And the reason why is pretty obvious, right? Potential for larger screens in a more compact form, bigger and smaller. That's always the angle that has intrigued me, of course, is like, what if you had an iPhone that turned into an iPad, even if it was just an iPad mini? And then this is where everyone starts barking. They're like, no, Apple will never do that because they don't want to cannibalize any of their other products. They want to sell you extra devices or whatever. Skeptics are going to be skeptical. That's what they do. And part of what they question is the durability, and the pricing. In the past, it's true that we have seen some foldables be kind of fragile, have some issues there. I think a lot of that's been worked out over time, but also be more expensive, right? You never have seen a foldable that was cheaper, that was like the base entry level model. So a lot of people are like, no, I don't really want to pay extra for that. And if I do pay extra, I want it to last for a long time. And I'm not sure about that yet. And as you feast your eyes on this Huawei video designed to make you want to buy their phone, then you can kind of think about whether or not the foldable market is going to grow. It's forecasted to grow 30% with Apple's entry. So if Apple comes out with a foldable, that's going to grow the market. That's what happens when Apple does stuff. You know it as well as I know it. It's just like when Apple does something, then people who like Apple stuff suddenly realize that it exists. Number one, it may not have been on the radar before, like it existed technically, but people in the Apple world like ignored it until Apple does it, and then they're all over it. So there's that. But then there's this question: is a foldable more convenient? Is it useful? Well, I think that's probably up in the air. I know, like I said, a lot of people do love their foldable phone, some of my friends. And, one in particular is kind of more of an engineering type of fellow. And I think that there's just something that feels more cutting edge, like more exciting. Why would you have less if you could get more, sort of a thing? My thing is, well, everyone's talking about the fold, right? The foldability. What about the hinge? When I think about other things that Apple makes that fold, right? Think about the MacBook, or the iPad, Apple ends up coming up with an interesting way for things to fold, to shut, to close, and to open. And for that matter, just to like hang there. You remember when they did the cantilevered design for the iPad Pro, how new and fresh that sort of felt? Well, I think if Apple does this, they're going to want to do it in the Apple way, right? The Apple fashion, put the Apple spin on it. And of course, that's going to be aesthetic. But I think part of that will be, something that's always been a part of Apple's brand since Steve Jobs was like, focus on the little details, the stuff that no one's ever going to see. And you'll end up making these sort of magical moments for people. Maybe when they take the case off and see, how organized everything is, and they're like, wow, your mind is blown. And you're like, and then that news spreads and people are like, Apple really puts a lot of attention and care and detail into things beyond just wanting to make money or whatever. So I think that the hinge is probably everything here. Apple's probably going to put their own spin or take on it. You know what they did with the dynamic island? They turned a boring notch into something that was like really, useful. Actually, you thought it was a gimmick. It was kind of a gimmick, but it ended up being really cool. So I think if Apple's going to really pull off this and be late to the party, but still make it seem cool and innovative somehow, then I think it's going to have to do with the hinge. And they're going to do some sort of crazy Apple hinge. We talked about earlier, a couple weeks ago, the stats were out and they said most people are buying the regular iPhone, okay? The regular, not the Plus, and also not the Pro Max, right? Now we're just talking about the majority of people and just this year. But I think that's fascinating because people do want smaller. Like they're willing to buy smaller. Everyone assumed, because it's been the trend for a long time, that everyone was most interested in the biggest, most capable iPhone that they could get their hands on, or hand, right? I guess if it folds out, this might be more of a two-handed thing. But I think that the foldable changes that dynamic. And especially if you do get a smaller and a bigger device all at one time. Some people are asking, would this replace the current iPhone lineup? I think not. I think this just becomes an addition. I think what you have to wonder about though, or maybe even worry about a little bit, is Apple lately, and when I say lately, I mean over the last several years, they've been bringing out more editions of things. Like there's several iPads to choose from, right? And for some people, it's almost mind-boggling. There's actually, there's the iPhones that are available right now, but then you can also buy like an older model a little bit still too. So the iPhones aren't quite as bad as the iPads. There's several Macs. One of the things Steve Jobs did when he came back to rescue Apple was he killed some stuff, killed a lot of stuff. He narrowed down their focus. And there's been a lot of product creep, I guess you would say. So I would be real interested to see, would Apple kill off any of the iPhones or just add a foldable whenever it does debut? So let me know, are you interested in foldables in general? Still, are you still interested in an iPhone that folds, or is that old? Is it dead? Where do you wish Apple's product strategy would take them?